Hello guys, it is I, the Wild West Gamer, sat here at my table with my laptop in my kitchen, not doing much. Today I make an appeal, rather bizarrely. I make an appeal to Steven Spielberg. I know, if you're going to go for it, go the whole way, right? The reason for this is because what better way to try and appeal to someone than via something that connects us all, the internet, social networking, YouTube, etc. I would love it if you ever see this. It would be fantastic. If you don't, oh well. At least I've tried. But I'm making an appeal to you, which is to ask you, please, could you do either a film or a television series on the Eastern Front during World War II, on the Ostfront, the Russian side of the war, from the early days of the war, from the breaking of the Soviet Nazi pact over Poland, all the way up to the final days in Berlin and perhaps afterwards. Quite frankly, I think people know enough about what the Western Allies did during World War II. We know now what we did in the Pacific as well. But I think it is important that we also remember what was done in the East. I don't feel there's enough stuff that really deals properly with how brutal that side of the war was. While we think of the European conflict and the Pacific conflict as two, there's a third one. There really is, and that is the Russian conflict. That was in a way that the Pacific and the European conflicts were as different from one another as they could get. So was the Russian one. Here was a conflict where both sides hated one another with a hatred so strong. I think it's completely incomparable to anything people know today. Here were two, politically they were completely at odds, fascism and communism. Culturally, completely at different odds, and as far as the way each other considered, as actual human beings, the Nazis considered, the people of Russia, to be subhuman, Slavs, Poles. I know that's slightly still slightly dealing with Europe there, but it's even in Russia, the order was that they really were going to burn Russia to the ground, steamroll over it, and and just turn it into more living space for Germans. And likewise, the Russians saw what the Nazis did, and as they went back into Germany, were intended to take vengeance upon them in the most brutal ways possible. Just a conflict, just where millions of people died, millions and millions and millions. People who will never know who their names are because they simply were lost amongst the countless piles of dead bodies. It was a horrific theatre of war to fight in. I can only guess at how awful the life expectancy was. But that's the thing. We know about how bad the Pacific was. We know about how bad the European theatre was. But I think that, to be fair, that Steven Spielberg is really the only person who could bring the scale and the humanity and the cruelty and the barbarism of that campaign to the screen. I think it would probably have to be a TV series, but I mean, a 10-piece one like the Pacific, like Band of Brothers, yeah, maybe even 12. I would watch that. I really would, and I know a lot of other people who would. But I just think it's really important. I think it's really, really important. Now, I get that the thing is, of course, a lot of controversial things happened. With regard to both the Soviets and, of course, the Nazis. And it probably would be hard to find a definitive sort of moral line between the two, considering that both were responsible for doing some pretty heinous things to each other. But you would be looking for the humanity of the ordinary man within the Soviet army. You would be looking for that man who that, say a group of men, a squad of men, like a bit Band of Brothers, but it would, it would be incredibly different, because you would be dealing with like commissars, the whole political officer sort of thing, the not one step back policy. You would be dealing with this group of men seeing their families murdered, their livelihoods burned to the ground. They would be finding the concentration camps moving through Poland and Eastern Germany. Stuff like that could be seen from the eyes of a squad of men, and I really think it could be done well by Steven Spielberg. I really do, and I really hope it's made a 10-piece or a 12-piece series called Ostfront. Would be fantastic. It would be so good to see battles of Stalingrad, the Battle of... I mean, people go, well, Enemy at the Gates has already done Stalingrad. People know, and there's that film Stalingrad itself, from the German perspective. Yeah, they've been done, but you know what? They can be done a lot better. They really can be. Stalingrad's a good film. Enemy at the Gate, not so much. It can be done really, really well. The Battle of Stalingrad, it can be done a lot better. Plus, we're talking about the earlier days, when the Germans, swept right through up to Moscow. The Battle of Moscow, Battle of Leningrad, Battle of Kursk. The Battle of Kursk would be amazing. Can you imagine that? Excuse me, the Battle of Kursk, the largest tank battle in history. Thousands and thousands of Panzers and T-34s going off against each other. Unbelievable. You could deal with the gulags. You could deal with stuff like that. You could deal with you could deal with post the battles of Berlin. The Battle of Berlin would be incredible to see. That's some of the most horrific fighting of the war. Likewise, you could deal with post-war Germany. And a lot of awful things that happened then that were perpetrated by Soviet soldiers against the Germans. And just exploring that, perhaps the rise then of sort of the differences between West and East, that growing tension and the beginning of the Cold War. This is just my ideas, but as someone who's interested in World War II, someone who's likes to know as much as I can about this, someone who's watching the Band of Brothers and Pacific again at the moment through for about the 1000th time. I really would like to see something about the Russians done. I think like I say, there is a lot there to be done. I mean the Finnish-Russian War, stuff like that. It really is there to be. Really is there to be explored, to see what can be made out of it. And I just hope that this perhaps does get to Steven Spielberg himself. If you see this, just know that people want to see it. People would love to see it. And I think that Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks, their collaboration over the last two, over the Band of Brothers, the Pacific, Saving Private Ryan. Incredible, absolutely incredible. They really work well together, and I think there is certainly material to be looked at with regard to a Russian-German conflict that could be made into a very compelling TV series. So, thank you for watching, guys. Like I say, it's just me just trying to put that idea out there, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I really love to see that happen. And if you guys agree, share your opinions, share what you think should happen. So there's that for you guys to think about. Thanks very much for watching, and see you later. Have a good day. Bye.